Hi there everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So in continuation of our series on psychological disorders, today's episode will be focused more on childhood onset disorders. That is, psychological disorders that begin to show up during one's childhood, which is usually between the ages of about 4 and 7, and then continue to develop well into adulthood. With these disorders, the presentation often changes with development, usually starting off mild, then gradually becoming more severe as the symptoms associated to the diagnosis become more complex. At times, however, it may seem as though an easing of the disorder is noted with age, when in actuality, the person has just come to better understand, thus better manage the diagnosis. Anxiety is just one such disorder, which becomes better manageable with time. Please go and check out episode 1 of the series that is linked below for more information on this mood disorder. The childhood onset disorders that we'll be discussing today include attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, conduct disorder, and autism. These are all disorders which all play out in varying manners but share an initial presentation age of early childhood. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, previously referred to as ADD, is characterized by behaviors of constant inattention or hyperactivity, behaviors which play out through demonstrating poor concentration or being easily distracted, or simply being restless and excessively energized. These are played out by a child in a variety of environments and with different people. In recognizing these behaviors, you will see that they are consistent in that the child finds great difficulty in remaining focused on a task or simply sitting still or just being patient, even when they know that this is expected of them. Very often, they just can't help it. Children diagnosed with ADHD can come across as lazy, rude, or simply unmanageable, which often can get them in trouble with teachers, friends, as well as family members because of how impulsive they present to be. But in fact, they just have a limited ability in fully regulating their moods and behaviors on their own. Because of this, the introduction of medications such as Ritalin and Concerta are used as a tool to help the child better regulate their impulses during school and later as they enter the workplace. Now, while I understand and agree with the value medications can have in serious cases of a diagnosis of ADHD, where little to no management of the child or adult is possible, I am, however, of the opinion that it is best to first explore a non-pharmaceutical management tool so as to ease the child into the process of living with the disorder. Do not be in too much of a hurry to view your child as struggling with inattention or even hyperactivity just as the first sign of change in behavior. It's more important to monitor the child for at least a month period in both the schooling and home environment, then proceed to get a professional opinion from a psychologist such as myself. Oppositional defiant disorder and conduct disorder are categorically the same disorder, in that they refer to a child's difficulty in abiding to the rules set out by an authority figure, but differ in the onset and progression, as ODD emerges in childhood and then develops into CD as a child enters adolescence. So, we often find that when it's not appropriately managed, a child diagnosed with ODD is likely to develop conduct disorder at a later stage, focused specifically on a child's behavior when dealing with rules, the law, and general authority figures. A child diagnosed with either of these disorders oftentimes presents with a misbehaving behavioral type, seemingly going out of their way to break the rules and ignore the guidelines set out by authority figures such as teachers, parents, and even the police. Their actions seem very deliberate, which in some way or another are, but they are also very impulsive and involuntary. A disorder such as ODD can start off as seemingly harmless, as a child being slightly rebellious, but soon can result in very reckless, risky, and unlawful behavior, putting both the child and others in very serious trouble and even danger. Of the many behavioral disorders, these are perhaps the hardest to manage, as the notion of right and wrong or action and consequence is often disregarded and not fully considered by the child. As such, in working to manage ODD and CD, one needs to consistently reiterate the action and the possible consequences to the child so that they learn to avoid living only for themselves, where they only benefit, but also to start thinking about others too. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not that the child lacks empathy, it's just that they are more concerned about the thrill and control they experience within the moment, and that's about it. Now finally, when we talk about autism, we are not talking about one thing, but rather an umbrella term with varying behavioral presentations relating to how a child views and understands their external and internal worlds. Autism is described as a spectrum disorder, and so, while under a single umbrella, interaction of a child with others often varies quite significantly depending on where on the spectrum the child lies, either low or high functioning. So due to the complexity of autism, for purposes of this episode, it will suffice to say that a great signifier is a sudden and inorganic change in how a child interacts with others. Where initially the child will take part in activities and present as sociable, they now either stop talking completely and avoid making and even maintaining eye contact. Should you notice the symptomology over a 1-month period, seek professional opinion for more thorough investigation. Now that concludes today's episode on childhood onset disorders. Hopefully you feel a little bit more versed on what to look out for and how to help. As always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe so you don't miss an upload. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time. Bye!